so excited. Obviously, we are starting off in the kitchen today, but I don't know about you, but when summer hits, oh my gosh, those weekends approach, you start having more and more people over. So I always like to have a really nice dessert on the table. Now, when I serve dessert, a lot of my friends and family like a little bit of coffee with it. I don't understand that energy. I would never sleep. I do not get it, but I do like coffee in my desserts. So today I wanted to bring those two things together and show you how to make my tiramisu cake. Yes, it's very exciting. I will say, purists, please look away. This is not a tiramisu. It is not that classic Italian dessert with those lady fingers soaked in a delicious coffee syrup with that beautiful mascarpone, kind of like Zabagnol situation. This is like a delicious cake that's almost sort of like a coffee cake, which is kind of what tiramisu is. And then we've got a beautiful mascarpone topping on it. It's really good, really simple, and a total showstopper. So to get started on, I know, I'm very excited about it. Not that I haven't had too much coffee today. We're gonna add it into the dessert too. So I'm gonna get to work on the actual batter for that cake. So in my stand mixer here, I have got half a cup of room temperature unsalted butter. Now you could easily do this with a hand mixer. You could even do it by hand if you're looking for a little bit of a workout, but you do wanna cream that butter a little bit and then add in some sugar. Now for the sugar, I'm gonna do a mixture of white and brown sugar. That's gonna give me like a little bit of a crisp on top of the cake, a bit of texture, and that brown sugar gives you that kind of molassesy flavor in the actual cake itself, which is totally delish. So I need half a cup of each of those. If you only had white sugar or only had brown sugar, you could totally just use that. I would use a full cup though. But add those babies in, we're gonna get really nice flavor. And then you wanna cream this together. And creaming is not a noun in this. There's actually no cream in this batter. It is actually a term for kind of beating butter and sugar or fat and sugar together just to bring a little bit of air into it. What's happening in this mixer is that butter is kind of beating up with that sugar. It's gonna get a little bit of structure and air in there, and that sugar's almost gonna dissolve a little bit. Typically when you are creaming things for a cake or a cookie batter, you do wanna do this for about a minute or two, just to let it get light and fluffy looking. But it's the summer, and I don't know about you, but when people are coming over, sometimes I don't think about making the cake early enough to have 1 to 2 minutes to cream this. So once it looks like it kind of comes together and it looks spreadable, like it's looking now, that's gonna make a delicious cake. It will be a little airier if you did cream it fully for those about 2 minutes, but honestly, this will work out perfectly. I am gonna scrape down the bowl a little bit just to get that butter and sugar incorporated. And then I'm gonna start adding in my eggs. This is a classic cake batter that I use to make so many different types of what I call tea cakes. And a tea cake is like a single layer cake, not a double decker, not a giant kind of glorious monstrosity that you'd see at a wedding. This is a casual cake, and I like that. So into there, I'm gonna add in 2 eggs, and I like to add them in 1 at a time. Because this mixture in the mixer right now is mainly fat, because we've got that butter, eggs are mainly water. So to make sure they emulsify together, that's why you wanna add them 1 at a time. Kind of like when you're making salad dressing, you don't wanna just dump everything all at once. You wanna go low and slow, so it emulsifies in. So add in that second egg as well. Already this smells amazing. Sugar and butter, what could go wrong? What a delight. All right, now I am gonna just scrape that off 1 more time, just to get everything incorporated. Beautiful, beautiful. And then for some flavor, I'm gonna toss in about 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. If you wanna be fancy, you could buy that vanilla bean paste at a lot of grocery stores now. Very nice, you see those little specks, but I'm just going in straight vanilla extract. So about 2 teaspoons for that good vanilla flavor. And then for some richness and to add that kind of moist coffee cake texture, I'm going in with a cup of sour cream. I love adding sour cream. I know, this is a good one. Sour cream in anything? Yes, please. In a cake? Definitely. So I'm gonna go in with that cup of sour cream. If you don't have sour cream, plain yogurt or vanilla yogurt would work as well. It would cut down a little bit on that fattiness, and the fat brings flavor, but it would still work really nicely as well. So I'm gonna beat that together as well, just to come together. And because you are putting in your sour cream, if your sour cream is cold from the fridge, it might get a little bit curdled looking, but that's okay. It will bake out. You're gonna be good to go. All right, that's looking wonderful. Now I'm gonna get to work on the dry ingredients for this delicious cake. So into a bowl, I'm gonna combine 2 cups of all-purpose flour. I know there's a flour called cake and pastry, but I really don't use it for cake or pastry. I actually don't know what I would use it for. All-purpose is perfect. It's got the right amount of gluten in there that'll give you a nice crumb, but it won't be too tough, kind of like bread, so that'll be delish. Now into there for those leaveners, those things that are gonna kind of puff up and give you that airy, delicious cake, I need 2 teaspoons of baking powder, as well as a teaspoon of baking soda. Since I have that sour cream in there, it's really nice and acidic. That baking soda is gonna react like that and almost make, remember when you were a kid and it was science class and you would make the volcanoes with the vinegar and baking soda? It's kind of what's happening in the cake, but with sour cream and baking soda, so arguably more delicious. Now, since there is a good amount of sugar in this batter as well, I do wanna add in some salt. Now, a lot of recipes when you are making baking ingredients or baking recipes call for like a fine salt. To be honest, I always just use kosher. So I have half of a teaspoon of kosher salt here, and this is what kosher salt looks like. It's got bigger flakes. So this is not technically kosher, but it's used in the process of koshering meat because it helps draw moisture out. But the thing I like about it in sweet baking is you get little kind of like crunchers of salt throughout. So it balances that sweet and salty absolutely perfectly. If you were using something like a sea salt, like a fine sea salt, I would go with about a 1/4 teaspoon because it does tend to taste a little saltier. So give that a whisk together. And then I have got some chocolate here. So I've got a third, yeah, right? Now I'm winning it. Now we're feeling it. I'm all about that sour cream, but y'all are chocolate people. So I've got a 1/3 of a cup of some chopped dark chocolate here. Any sort of chocolate you've got hanging around. I don't know, well, no, you're all chocolate people. You don't have chocolate hanging around. You're not like me. I got that chocolate bar in the cupboard and he's just chilling in there, waiting to be used in this cake. I like to chop it up though, as opposed to using something like a chocolate chip. A chocolate chip will work well, but you don't get those little tiny flakes throughout the whole cake. All right, so that's nice and mixed together. And you wanna give that a good mix to make sure all of those dry ingredients and those leaveners are incorporated evenly. So now I'm just gonna add all of that dry into the wet. And just give that a beat together just until it comes together. At this point, this is where you can technically overmix your cake. Since we are using flour, all-purpose flour, it has gluten in it. And gluten actually doesn't kind of come together until you introduce something liquidy. So this is where the gluten starts producing. So once the batter reaches here, stop. You're gonna see a little bit of that flour around the edges, but I like to finish it by hand at this point. That ensures that I don't overwork it. I don't end up with weird tiramisu bread, which doesn't actually sound terrible, but it is not what I'm going for right now. So give that a scrape, pop that baby off of there, perfect. There you go, nailed it. She's strong, it's fine. And then I'm just gonna scrape all of this batter, finish that mixing up a little bit, and I'm gonna scrape this batter into a prepared 9-inch round cake pan. You could do this in a square pan as well. I do an 8 or a 9-inch. I've just sprayed it with a little bit of non-stick cooking spray. This recipe also works if you wanna double it up. I would not triple it though if you're going for a big tall cake, because it does tend to get a little bit more overworked. It's harder to mix everything in. Doubled though, if you're looking for a double layer, feel free. Just gonna add that in there. Spread that out nice and even. And since this is almost like a coffee cake, it's a thicker batter. So it's gonna rise up, it's gonna stay nice and moist and be totally delish. But I'm gonna pop that into my 350-degree oven just for about 30 to 35 minutes. It bakes up pretty quickly for a cake. It's gonna smell absolutely amazing. But I hear all those tiramisu fans out there being like, Mary, there's no coffee in that cake. You're calling it a coffee cake because it's kind of that texture with that sour cream and that richness. But here is where the coffee comes in. Just like when you're making a tiramisu where you make like a coffee syrup that you dunk those ladyfingers in, we're gonna make a coffee simple syrup. So the first thing I have is a 1/4 cup of sugar. I'm gonna add that on into a bowl. And a simple syrup is just equal parts sugar and some sort of liquid. Usually water, you can do different things as well. I'm gonna go for coffee. Now, I don't know about you, but when I make a pot of coffee in the morning, I tend to have some leftover. Surprising, because I do have a lot of energy, but I do not actually drink that much coffee. So I have got here some coffee from my old, percolator. I need about a 1/4 cup. Measure it out from your favorite Good Stuff mug, and you're good to go. Pop that in. And you just wanna bring that to a simmer just until that sugar dissolves. That should take about 2 to 3 minutes, and you are gonna get the most delicious sweet coffee syrup that we are gonna put on that cake once it's baked. That has been coming up to a simmer, and as you can see, there's none of that sugar left. It is all dissolved, so that is a perfect coffee simple syrup. That, in like a espresso martini, my friend calls it a spro, would be absolutely delicious. But I'm gonna make this now into that delicious tiramisu kind of situation. So I'm gonna turn off the heat, and then I'm gonna add in a couple of different flavor boosters. So the first thing I need is a teaspoon of vanilla extract. I like to do this off the heat, because the vanilla extract, fun fact, mainly alcohol. So if you put it into a hot syrup, that is gonna basically boil off immediately, and you're not gonna get those flavors. So do that off the heat, and you're good to go. Now, I did mention earlier, tiramisu often has a little bit of something boozy in it. So in this mixture, you wanna add in a tablespoon of either Marsala wine, absolutely delish, or if you've just got some like, I don't know, dark rum hanging around, why not pop a little bit of that in there? It's gonna give you that molasses flavor that's gonna mimic the sugar that's going on in that cake. So just about a tablespoon, or for all those cocktail heads, half of an ounce into there. Give that a stir. Now, if you wanted to make this for maybe someone who's not drinking or someone who's younger, feel free to actually boil that off. Add that alcohol in earlier with that coffee, bring it to a simmer, and that'll cook off that alcohol. Again, I'd keep that vanilla though in later. Now that is smelling amazing. It's gonna cool a little bit to room temp. While that gets going, I'm gonna get to work on that delicious mascarpone kind of whipped situation that we're gonna put on top of that cake. I know. Like, my favorite summer memories are being at the cottage eating like that angel food cake you got at the grocery store that was so hard to get out of that plastic for some reason thing, with a little bit of whipped cream and strawberry. So this is kind of that, but grown up and with a coffee. So into here, I'm gonna combine half a cup of mascarpone cheese. Mascarpone cheese is like Italian cream cheese. It's really creamy, it's so delicious, and I absolutely love it. If you did not have mascarpone, you could swap this out with cream cheese. Again, do not tell anyone who's a tiramisu purist, because they'll come at me, and that's fine. So I'm just popping that into my mixer. And for that cream, I'm going in with a cup of heavy whipping cream. You need to use heavy whipping cream, something that's 35% or over. Otherwise, it's not gonna whip up into whipped cream. So add that on in. And then I'm gonna go in with 3 tablespoons of icing sugar. If you don't have icing sugar on hand, regular sugar will work too. 3 tablespoons is all you need though, because I don't want this to be ultra sweet. I want it to be kind of like adult sweet, if that makes sense. Now I'm going in with a teaspoon of vanilla, as well as another tablespoon of that delicious rum. Again, if you're using Marsala wine, feel free, but add that right on in. And then you just wanna whip that just until it holds stiff peaks. When I am whipping cream and I want it to last, I like to do it on medium speed, not high. High speed will get you that whipped cream quicker, but the bubbles will be a little bit big, so they'll run the risk of popping and getting weepy. So if you do it on medium speed, kind of low and slow, that's gonna whip up beautifully and give you like stable whipped cream, which is fantastic. In fact, it's so stable that we made some earlier, which is great. So I have got some here, and I also have this amazing looking cake. Like, look at that. It kind of looks like the world's biggest chocolate chip cookie, which is a delight. I've got that beautiful whipped mascarpone situation, and then I also have some cooled syrup back here. So what I wanna do with this is where we go kind of more into that like dunking the lady fingers territory. I'm gonna get a fork. You don't have to do this, but it makes it a little easier. And I'm just gonna poke holes all into this cake. So basically kind of look like you're ruining it, but that's okay. This is similar to, my mom used to make this cake out of boxed cake. She would bake up a chocolate boxed cake, poke holes in it, pour a can of sweetened condensed milk on it, and then a jar of caramel sauce. And then she put whipped cream on top, and she called it a score cake. I don't know where the score thing came from. It was delicious. So there's a little nod to Myra Berg here. Now I'm gonna get some of that beautiful syrup and just spoon it over that cake. You want it to go into those holes. You want it to just absorb into that cooled cake. If some of it pools around the side, that will just absorb in. This is gonna give you that coffee flavor that you're looking for. If you want to as well, you can do this while it's in the pan and really let it soak up, almost like a dulce de leche cake. Oh my gosh. This is where you lose me, because I'm just gonna keep doing this until the cows come home. It smells so good. You smell that little bit of rum in there, that molassesy flavor. So you do that just until all of that syrup is used up and soaked in. Then we're gonna get that beautiful whipped mixture that we made. Pop that right on top, just like a big old dollop. This is how we do it. And this is the trickiest part, is not touching it too much. I always just wanna keep futzing with it, but just a little bit of a swipe with an offset or an upside down spoon or something and you have got a beautiful looking cake. And the best part is, if you do make any mistakes and it starts to look a little sad, just like with a regular tiramisu, a little bit of some cocoa powder right on top, dust it over, will look absolutely amazing. And then finally, I know, should I put a little more chocolate on it? Yeah. Okay, cool, okay. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make a couple of delicious little chocolate shavings. So I've got my chocolate right over here, and I'm just gonna scooch this a little forward and then pull this a little back. And this is how I like to get my chocolate shavings. So get a clean kitchen towel, pop it up against your hip, almost like you're cool, like you're a dad with a cell phone belt, okay? And then grab your chocolate bar, pop it against your hip here, and then grab a knife and just pull it against you. This is gonna end up, you're gonna see in just a sec, with perfect little chocolate shavings right on the side of your knife. They look absolutely stunning. And then you just pop those right on top of your cake. Looking so nice, so flaky. They're a little staticky and they're gonna be absolutely delicious. That to me looks like summertime dinner party. You absolutely nailed it, so let's give it a taste. Okay. Oh my gosh. The cake is tender and moist and like totally delicious. That little bit of syrup just leaking through. Okay. She's feeling pumped. I'm gonna give this a taste and, you know, getting that summer weekend vibe going. Hey, Mary here. What did you think? Drop your comments below and don't forget to like and subscribe for more of the good stuff.